Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years.
Open the door. To remove the master window switch, we're going to use the plastic trim tool. You can get these from 1aauto.com. Otherwise, you'd have to use a flat-bladed screwdriver and you could damage your trim with the hard metal. So these are nice soft plastic. You're going to kind of get underneath here. It's a little tight fit. And then kind of slide it to the middle. And there is a clip. We're going to push in this way. And at the same time, pry up. Pull the master window switch out of the door panel. Put this aside here. Now I can unlock the connector. There's a tab here. You push down. Pull out on the switch. Pull it out. Put the master window switch aside. We need to remove this little door handle pull, this little pocket here where your hand goes. It needs a plastic prying tool. So I'm going to kind of go underneath, try to catch the metal, and then pop it up just like that. And if this side doesn't come, you have to do the same thing as a similar clip. Pop it up, pull it out. So what you're doing is you're going underneath, pushing in on this metal tab to unlock it. To remove this black trim cover, take the plastic prying tool, reach in here, just pop it out. Pull that right out. Use a small flat-bladed screwdriver. Carefully open this little door here to expose the screw that's behind it. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the screw. I take the plastic prying tool. There's a slight opening just above the lock. Push the plastic prying tool up and then pop it up off, pull it down, so it pulls down from this one, then it needs to go out this way, and then you'll have to move this. So you're unhooking it by going this way, and then you're just feeding it off of the lever. To remove this push clip, actually push in on the center, unlocks it, and then you can take the other side of your plastic prying tool and get underneath it and pry it right out. And then to reuse it, just push it right back out through. We'll put that aside. Remove the Phillips head screw. It's inside our opening for our little cup here, pull handle, using a Phillips head screwdriver. The rest of the door panel is held on with clips along the edge. As you pull this off, you will need to unplug the courtesy light. That should be the only thing that's plugged into through the door panel. So you just kind of reach underneath, and if you need to, you can use a plastic trim tool, but there's a little bit of a finger hold here. I can get it in, get my fingers in, and pull out. And we're gonna lift up off of the steel part of the door. The door panel kind of hooks around the top. So lift up and straight out. And the only thing plugged in, I can turn this so I can see it, is the courtesy light. So I'm gonna push it in the lock, pull it right out. We'll put our door panel aside, remove the door handle and lock. There's a 10mm bolt here. We'll remove that. Bolt out, pull this off. It slides out of the steel panel. There's a hook here and a hook here. And flip it over. So the door opening handle is this green one, and it's going into the handle there. We can pull it out of the plastic, just pop it straight out. And then when it comes out, you'll just push the cable up and out. And then for the lock one, It's the same thing, just kind of push it up and out. And then unhook it. To remove the vapor barrier, it's stuck to the door panel with butyl tape. It's forever sticky. You want to take a razor blade, and sometimes you just kind of have to gently pull it and then cut it a little bit. We'll get it to separate. You should be able to reuse the vapor barrier, and it will re-stick to this butyl tape. Just work your way all the way around. Peeling, cutting it. Just gonna feed this harness out of the opening in here. Very careful. You can lay it the sticky side up and reuse it. Remove the speaker. We're gonna unplug it, pushing in the lock, pulling up the connector. There's 3 10mm bolts holding it in. Use a 10mm socket and ratchet to remove them. Pull it right out. Put that aside. Plug the master window switch in. Turn the ignition on. Just gonna lower the driver's window. I want to lower it so we can see you can see this bolt here and this bolt here. I can turn the ignition off and I'll unplug this. There's 2 10mm bolts that are pinching the window glass into the regulator. I'll start with this one here and I'll just loosen it. It might not come all the way out. Well, it will come all the way out. And then this one looks like somebody replaced it. It should look like this one, but if it doesn't, not a big deal. It's still, this one's still 10mm. And we'll take it out. Try not to drop this inside the door panel. Now we can lift the glass up and out of the door panel. Just carefully pull it out of the door panel. It does have a bit of a curve to it. Hands, guide it out of here, and we'll put that in a safe place. Unplug the window motor, and push in on the lock, pull the connector out. There are 6 10mm bolts that are holding the regulator to the door panel. I'm going to remove those. Remove this one last. The reason why we did this one last, because you can actually just loosen it. You don't have to remove it all the way. And now the regulator hangs in place, so you can lift it up and out of the opening. And we have to guide this out of the door panel. So you collapse it and maneuver it out. Use a T25 Torx bit on the end of my extension and ratchet to remove the 3 T25 Torx that are holding the motor, the window motor, to the regulator. I'll just separate it. This is our original window motor from our vehicle and a brand new one from 1A Auto. Same style of window motor. This should work great and fit great for you. Before we can install the motor to the regulator, we need to run it without it being connected, and that will idle the motor to its neutral position. I'm going to plug the master switch in. I'm going to plug the motor in. I'm going to turn the ignition on. Now it needs to run in the up direction for about 4 seconds. And no more than, minimum is 6 rotations, no more than 10 rotations. So you could try to mark it and count it, but I'm just going to count to 4. And when you do this, you don't want to pull the switch all the way up into the auto position. You just want to pull it up into that first detent. So we'll let this run for 4 seconds. Then we can unplug it, unplug the master switch, and we'll install this onto the regulator and then back into the door. Going to install the motor to the regulator. This is the bottom of the regulator. So this will be the top of the door and the bottom of the door. You want to install the motor to the regulator with this lift arm pointing towards the bottom. That way these bolts are exposed when you put it in the door and you can bolt up the glass. Now would be a good time to take some multi-purpose grease or white lithium grease, and we'll just put some on the gears, on the gear. This will sit, this gear has a part that's kind of like a bushing, but it's going to ride in the circular opening in the regulator. And then of course it's going to match up with the 3 holes, so we can reinstall the torque screws. And I'm going to sit it in place to lift this up, fit them together, just like that. Hold it together, flip it over. Take a Torx bit and our torque screws. Get this one going together. This is ready to go back in the vehicle. I'll reinstall the window regulator and motor. Get it kind of collapsed in through the door opening. Fish it in here. I'm going to bring the regulator up and hang it on the bolt that I left in there. That's why it's good to leave that bolt in there. You can just hang it in place. And I'm going to pull the regulator down. Extend it where it was. Just be aware when you're installing this regulator, this bar, it mounts behind the panel here. You want this opening to point towards the inside of the car. You can flip this a total 360 degrees and install it backwards. And if you install it backwards, the regulator is going to go up, get bound up, and then come right back down. It's not even going to go up, a few inches. So make sure that this gets spun around in the right direction. See, there's a stop on there. It'd be hitting the stop, so you can actually spin it all the way around. And we'll put it up in place. I'll get this bolt caught. Place. Tighten all the bolts, holding the regulator to the door. Feel them get tight, stop. Reinstall the glass. Just kind of slide it in at an angle. And I'm going to hold it with one hand. Reach underneath and support it. It needs to go into the channels on both sides, and I'm going to kind of readjust it just like that. So it's sitting, it's going to ride in these channels, and I'm going to gently lower it down. You can sit on here, adjust that out to meet it. Just going to hold this in place with one hand, and I'll install this bolt. Looks like somebody who had this window out before dropped the original bolt down inside the door panel and didn't spend a lot of time looking for it. So I'm just taking out this weird one that doesn't match. And I'm going to put in the correct original that was sitting in the bottom of the door panel here. Just going to tighten these up. Feel them get tight. I will stop. I don't want to crack the plastic. Plug the connector back in. It'll click when it locks in place. Turn the ignition on. I'm going to run the window up and down 3 times without using the auto feature. There's 2 positions for the switch. So we're going to pull it up into the first position, which is not auto up. And we're going to set the limits of the motor. So we'll go up. We'll go all the way down. We'll go up. Go down. And one more time. Give it a minute, because if the motor runs too many times, it will start to overheat and won't work. So let it just cool off for a second. Let's use the auto down. And the auto up. Reinstall the speaker. There's a hook here, and the electrical connector goes in the top. Slide it up into place, align it, get one of these caught, get the other one caught. Tighten them up. Pull the electrical connector in. Reinstall the vapor barrier. You can tell by the orientation of the holes which way it goes. So these 2 holes match up with these 2 here, and then these 2 openings match up with these 2 here. So I know that'll go up. And also the slit there is to go around the cables. We're going to feed the wire through for the courtesy light. I'm going to start in this corner, and this stuff is just always sticky. Put it back in place and just push it down. It'll want to stick to everything. I'll lift up the cables underneath, kind of line it up with the holes, and just go along the outer edge and push it right back in. I mean, don't be worried about getting it perfect. That's good enough there. Reconnect the door handle, the inside door handle with the lock one. So the white one went in the outer one. It just hooked in and then pushed right down in. And the green one, that hooks down in place there. And it looks like this actually is broken a little bit. It'd have kind of a tab over it that would lock it. And we're just gonna push it down in place. Just like that. There's 2 tabs here. They're gonna go in to the door panel this way. And push it down. There are 2 openings in the handle. This one is for when the door panel is on, and the screw will go through that and the cap will go over it. This one is the one you access with the door panel off, and the 10mm self-tapper will go in here. If one of these clips gets stuck, you can just take a trim panel tool, pull it in here, pop it out, put it back in your door panel and reuse it. This went in down here. Just kind of push them in place. Plug in the courtesy light. There we go. Top of the door panel is kind of curved. It's going to hook over the metal frame. So I'm going to start by going up in here. It doesn't matter if the window is up or down. hang it over it, and then we'll get it in place. Make sure that your master window switch harness is accessible. And now we can push it in place on the clips. It'll snap into place. Let's go around the door, push them in place, put our push clip back in, reinstall the screw that goes under the door pull handle. When you reinstall this door handle pull, the arrow points towards the inside. We'll push it in, just like that. Reinstall this cover. It has a hook that's going to hook into here in the black plastic. So we're going to lift that up, slide it this way, get it hooked first, and then push this in. And we'll reinstall the screw. Reinstall this black A-pillar cap. Just kind of slides in place and then snaps in. Plug the harness back in. It'll click when it locks in place. There's a tab here, it's going to slide underneath, and this metal tab is going to push into this opening here.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at 1AAuto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.